Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a topic that, well, it truly touches everyone's life, doesn't it? Money.
Absolutely. Doesn't matter where you are or what you do.
Exactly. But we're not just looking at the numbers, the cold, hard facts. We're exploring the very language we use to talk about it.
Especially when times get tough, like when the economy takes a downturn.
Right. So, our mission today is to help you not just understand these kind of complex financial realities, but also to really master the vocabulary and phrases.
The stuff that makes you sound natural and confident talking about it in English.
Yeah, this is real world language for, well, real world situations because you hear these terms all the time.
And what's really fascinating here, I think, is where we start. Our deep dive begins with this totally unexpected scenario.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine someone, like, facing financial ruin, pushed right to the absolute brink, and they turn for help to a, well, let's just say an unconventional source.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Unconventional how?
Think mob boss level unconventional.
Yeah.
But the surprise doesn't stop there.
No.
Because even they are feeling the pinch of the economy. It's a powerful way to see just how widespread this stuff can be.
Wow. Okay, so it's like a scene out of a movie, right? You need a loan so desperately you go to, like, the legendary Mr. Corleone.
A figure you associate with, immense power, resources.
Right, only to find out he's broke too.
Exactly. He says, I'm broke too. Shocking, right?
That completely sets the stage for what we want to do today. We're going to peel back the layers on the vocabulary, the everyday phrases people use for financial hardship.
Going beyond just the dictionary definition, how do people actually use these words? What impact do they convey?
And then we're going to look at how different cultures, like around the world, actually view something as basic as debt.
Which can be totally different and might really shift how you think about it.
Absolutely. So get ready for some, hopefully, aha moments. This deep dive is packed with surprising facts, practical language tips, stuff that's essential if you want to sharpen your English and navigate, our complex financial world.
Okay, let's really unpack this opening scenario then. We've got Charlie, clearly in deep, deep trouble.
Utterly desperate.
Driven by that desperation to seek help from Mr. Corleone. But the biggest twist, the real shocker, is Corleone's response. I'm broke too.
Yeah, blunt, no messing around.
So this isn't just about one guy's bad luck. It paints this picture of a much larger kind of systemic problem, right?
Definitely.
What kind of economic storm are they navigating that even Mr. Corleone, someone you'd expect to be totally insulated from this stuff, is feeling the heat?
Well, this immediately brings us to a really crucial economic term. You hear it thrown around a lot, especially now.
Which is?
Recession. It's a word we hear constantly. And yeah, unfortunately, it's very relevant right now.
Okay, recession. What does it actually mean in simple terms? At its core, a recession is defined as a significant, widespread, and sort of sustained decline in economic activity across a whole country.
It's not just a little blip.
No, it's not just a bad month or something. It's a broader contraction of the economy. Economists usually look for the most common signal is 2 consecutive quarters, that's 6 months of negative growth in GDP.
GDP, gross domestic product, right?
Exactly. That's basically the total value of everything a country produces, goods and services. When that number shrinks for 6 months straight, it's a pretty strong sign you're in a recession.
Okay, so it's like a nationwide economic illness then, a contraction across the board.
That's a good way to put it.
What are the sort of visible symptoms of this illness that directly impact people's lives? How do we feel a recession?
Right, because it's not just an abstract number. When a country's in recession, several key things happen that really hit home. One of the most visible and frankly painful consequences is widespread job losses.
Because companies aren't making as much money.
Precisely. Demand for goods and services falls, so companies might close down or go bankrupt, or they just drastically scale back. They cut costs.
And that often means laying people off.
Mass layoffs, yeah.
Sure.
Unemployment rates typically shoot up. We also see things like a decline in industrial production factories making less stuff. Businesses invest less in new equipment or expanding.
Which probably leads to even fewer jobs down the line. It sounds like a vicious cycle.
It really can be. Less production means fewer jobs, which means people have less income, so they spend less. It feeds itself.
Okay, so job losses is a big one. And you mentioned spending. That changes too. It feels like a domino effect.
Absolutely. Another major indicator is reduced spending. You might hear economists talk about a decline in consumer confidence or consumption.
People get scared. Or just don't have the money?
Both, really. People naturally start spending less. They become more cautious about the future.
Yeah.
Or they simply have less disposable income because they lost their job or their hours got cut or they're just worried.
So they hold on to their cash.
Right. And this shift from spending to saving or just not having money to spend, that further stifles the economy. Businesses need people to buy things,
If no one's buying, businesses suffer more.
which can lead to more job losses. It's that self-reinforcing downward spiral we talked about. Very hard to break once it gets going.
Okay, so jobs, spending.
Yeah.
What about people who have savings or investments, like in the stock market or retirement funds? How does a recession affect that?
Ah, yeah, that's where the third key indicator often comes in. Falling stock prices. The stock market usually takes a big hit during a recession.
Why is that?
Well, think about it. If companies are making less profit or their future looks uncertain because of the economy, investors get nervous. They lose confidence.
So they sell their shares.
They sell off their shares, yeah. And when lots of people are selling, prices go down,
Mhm.
sometimes way down. This impacts investments, retirement funds, 401ks, pensions,
Hmm.
overall wealth for millions.
It's like in 2008.
Exactly like 2008. That financial crisis saw huge stock market declines. It wiped out trillions in wealth, hitting retirement savings hard. And in our Corleone example, he actually says, I lost half my money and the stock market crashed.
Wow.
That directly reflects this consequence. It's not just theory, it's real money vanishing.
Yeah.
And the source material mentions it, and this is kind of what's going on now in the United States, so very current.
So a recession means the whole country struggles. Jobs lost, less spending, falling stocks. That's the big picture, widespread economic pain. But what about the personal impact, the day-to-day effect on someone like Charlie, or surprisingly, even Mr. Corleone? How does that big pain translate down to an individual level?
And that brings us perfectly to our second key term. This describes the direct, often immediate, personal consequence of all that economic trouble.
Which is,
Broke.
simple word, but powerful.
Very powerful. To be broke means you have absolutely no money. You're financially depleted, finished.
Where does that word even come from?
It's actually got a cool history. It comes from Italian bancarotta, which means broken bench.
Broken bench.
Yeah. Back in medieval Italy, money changers did business at benches in the marketplace. If a merchant couldn't pay his debts, they'd literally break his bench.
Seriously?
Yep. It signified he was insolvent, couldn't trade anymore, a public declaration of financial ruin.
Wow, so broke carries all that weight.
It really does. In modern terms, it's not just lacking funds. It often comes with feelings of, failure, maybe shame, definitely desperation.
And the dialogue we heard really shows that. Charlie is obviously broke and desperate. That's why he's there.
But the truly surprising part, the thing that really signals how bad this recession must be.
Is Corleone saying it too?
Exactly. When Mr. Corleone, this figure of immense power, influence, seemingly limitless resources, says, I'm broke too. You're not the only one who's been hit. I lost half my money.
That just underscores it.
It means anyone can be affected. Anyone. Economic hardship can touch everyone, no matter their status or perceived wealth. No one's truly immune when the economy dives that hard. Being broke becomes this universal, deeply impactful state of vulnerability.
Okay, so Charlie's predicament, his whole desperate plea, it paints such a vivid picture of that financial struggle during a recession. He mentions this whole string of specific financial burdens.
Yeah, not just a general lack of cash.
Yeah.
Specific things.
That have pushed him into what he calls a lot of debt. It's not vague, it's these concrete obligations piling up, suffocating him. Let's break down these terms, because honestly, they're crucial for understanding personal finance in English and just navigating life.
Absolutely. And it raises the question, what exactly are these specific things that add up to being in a lot of debt?
Right, what's the umbrella term?
The overarching term for any money you owe is simply debt. That's the total amount you owe to, well, anyone, a person, a bank, a company, whatever.
And Charlie's got a lot of different kinds.
He really does. He lists several. He's got credit card bills. That's a really common form of what's called revolving debt. You borrow, pay back, borrow again, up to a limit.
Then he mentions car payments.
Right. Typically an installment loan. You pay a fixed amount over a set time for your car.
And the big one for many people.
His mortgage, which is usually the largest single financial commitment people make in their lives.
And as if that wasn't enough.
Then he says, on top of all that, his son's college tuition.
Oof. That's a heavy list. It shows how easily these things can pile up.
It really does. And, people sometimes talk about good debt versus bad debt.
What's the difference there?
Well, good debt is sometimes seen as an investment, like a mortgage on a house that might increase in value, or maybe a student loan that helps you earn more later.
Okay, makes sense.
Bad debt is usually high-interest debt for things that don't gain value, or just for consumption, like running up credit cards for shopping or vacations.
Yeah.
Charlie's list seems like a mix.
But in a recession, does that distinction even matter?
Maybe less so.
Mhm.
When money gets tight, all debt feels like a heavy burden, good or bad.
Right. And when someone like Charlie needs money urgently to cover all this mounting debt, they often go looking for a loan. Tell us about that word, and I think there's a common mix-up.
Yes, absolutely. So when you borrow money, you get a loan. A loan is basically money that someone, an individual, a bank, whatever, lends you. The key thing is you're expected to pay it back, usually with interest.
Interest being the extra cost for borrowing.
Exactly, the fee the lender charges. Now, the common confusion, especially for English learners, is mixing up LOAN, loan, with ALONE, alone.
Ah, they sound similar.
Very similar, but totally different meanings. Alone means by yourself, solitude.
Yeah.
Loan is this financial transaction, LOAN.
Got it. Loan, not a loan. Good tip.
And Charlie's visit to Mr. Corleone is explicitly him asking for a loan. He needs borrowed funds right now to stop the bleeding, financially speaking.
He's trying to keep his head above water.
Right. Maybe cover those immediate bills, possibly consolidate everything into one new payment. Loans come in lots of shapes and sizes, personal loans, lines of credit. But the core idea is the same. Borrowed money you have to repay.
Okay. And you mentioned mortgage earlier as one of Charlie's big debts. That's huge for so many people. What exactly is it, and is there anything tricky about the word itself,
Yeah.
especially pronunciation-wise?
Great question. Yes, a mortgage is super common and usually the biggest loan most people ever take out. Simply put, a mortgage is a specific type of loan used to buy property, usually a house.
So the house itself is tied to the loan.
Exactly. The property acts as collateral. If you start making payments, the lender, usually a bank, has the right to take the house. That's called foreclosure.
Scary stuff. And they last a long time, right?
Oh, yeah. Mortgages often run for 15, 20, even 30 years. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes. It's a massive long-term commitment. Now, pronunciation. This trips up so many people.
What is it?
It's the silent T. The word is mortgage, but you don't pronounce the T. It's mortgage.
Mortgage, not mortgage.
Exactly. Mortgage. Like, the 10 isn't even there. It's a small thing, but saying it correctly, mortgage, really makes you sound more natural when talking about homeownership.
That is a really helpful tip. Okay, mortgage. Got it. And then the final straw for Charlie, it seems, was his son's college tuition. What exactly is tuition, and why is it such a big deal financially?
Tuition is another critical one, especially for families. It's the money you pay to a school, college, or university so you can study there. It covers the cost of teaching, labs, facilities, that kind of thing.
And in places like the U.S., that cost can be astronomical.
Absolutely. College tuition can be incredibly high, tens of thousands of dollars per year per student. It's a major source of debt for countless families. People take out huge student loans that can take decades to pay off.
Is it only for college?
Mostly associated with college or university, yeah. But the source notes that in some countries, you might even have to pay tuition for public schools, like elementary or high school. So its use can be broader.
And for Charlie, mentioning it on top of all that,
Yeah, that phrasing really emphasizes it as this additional heavy burden, the final weight that's just crushing him. It's supposed to be this investment in his son's future, right? Better earning potential.
but right now it's just another bill he can't pay.
Exactly. In a recession, that long-term investment becomes an unbearable immediate burden, pushing families deeper into financial distress.
So how does Charlie describe the personal impact of all this? The recession, the debt, the tuition. He uses a great phrase. He says, "It has hit me pretty hard." That's such a versatile phrase, isn't
Now,
it?
it's wonderfully versatile
Gary.
and so relatable. Hit me pretty hard means something has had a significant, profound, usually negative impact on you. It's stronger than just saying it was difficult.
It conveys being really affected.
Deeply affected, yeah. Overwhelmed even. And you can use it for all sorts of things like emotional trauma. My divorce hit me pretty hard. I was really depressed for months. See? Deep sadness, distress.
Okay. What about physically?
Definitely. Physical illness. Man, this flew at me pretty hard. I was stuck in bed for a whole week, just wiped out. It shows being really debilitated.
And grief, too.
Perfect for grief.
Yeah.
The news about my dog passing away hit me pretty hard. I cried for days. It conveys that profound sadness, that lasting emotional response.
So when Charlie says the recession has hit me pretty hard,
It immediately tells you it's not just his bank account. It's impacted everything. His mental state, maybe his family life, his ability to function, his hopes for the future. It's a really concise, impactful way to communicate significant suffering and just how all-encompassing his struggle feels.
okay, so beyond those specific financial terms, which are super important, the dialogue we heard between Charlie and Corleone, it's like a goldmine for anyone wanting to sound more natural in English.
Absolutely. It's full of those little phrases that native speakers use constantly.
Right, the kind of things that instantly make your communication better. It's not just about knowing words, it's knowing how to use these common expressions naturally.
And what's interesting is how these seemingly simple phrases do so much work. They make you sound more polite, more authentic, like you're actually speaking English, not just, translating in your head.
Totally. They show you understand the sort of conversational rhythm and etiquette. So let's dive into some of these fluency builders. They're essential.
Couldn't agree more.
Let's start with the first one. Mr. Corleone uses it right when Charlie walks in. It's a very standard, polite way to greet someone who seems to need something.
Yes, that's "what can I do for you?" It's just a really polite, natural way to ask someone if they need help or how you can assist them.
It sounds a bit softer than just, what do you want?
Exactly. Or even, "can I help you?" which can sometimes sound a bit abrupt depending on the tone. "What can I do for you?" shows respect, a willingness to help. It signals you're open to their request.
Where else might you hear it?
Oh, all over. A shopkeeper might say it when you walk in, a receptionist at a desk, even in a more personal setting if someone comes to you looking for something specific.
And Corleone uses it here, setting this polite, maybe slightly formal tone.
Yeah, despite the desperate situation, it starts the interaction politely. It's just a standard way to open that kind of conversation. You might also hear variations like, "how can I help you?" Or maybe, "what can I get for you?" in like a restaurant or shop.
Okay, good one. Next up, Charlie himself uses a phrase that's all about politeness when you're, like, interrupting someone or asking for a big favor. Very useful for everyday situations.
Oh, yes. He says, "I'm really sorry to trouble you." But you also hear, "can I trouble you for a moment?" These are essential for politely apologizing when you need to bother someone.
It acknowledges you might be imposing.
Precisely. It shows consideration, maybe a bit of deference, especially useful in more formal settings, or when asking someone to go out of their way.
Can you give some examples?
Sure, like at work, asking for a signature. "Can I trouble you for a moment? I need you to sign this form." You're interrupting, so you acknowledge it.
Makes sense.
Or asking your boss for permission. "I'm sorry to trouble you, but may I leave early today? Something came up." Shows respect for their time and authority.
What about asking a stranger for something small?
Yeah, like asking for a pen. "Can I trouble you for a pen? Mine just ran out." It's much softer than just saying, "give me a pen."
Definitely. And Charlie uses, I'm really sorry to trouble you, but I need your help.
Right. That choice of words really highlights his desperation, but it's coupled with this polite acknowledgement of the huge imposition he's making. It shows respect, even in that dire moment. It kind of softens the blow of his very heavy request.
Okay, great phrase. And finally, there's one that's incredibly versatile for just adding information, whether it's good or bad. It often emphasizes that the added item is significant. Charlie uses it to pile on his financial problems.
Ah, you mean on top of all that. Yes, super useful. It basically means in addition to, besides that, and also, you use it to add another item to a list, especially when you're listing things that build on each other.
And it often makes the list feel more intense.
Exactly, it escalates things, whether good or bad. So for negative situations, think of a really awful day. I lost my job, then my car got stolen, and on top of all that, my girlfriend dumped me.
See how it builds the drama?
Yeah, ouch. Does it work for good things, too?
Oh, absolutely. So today was amazing. It was my birthday. All my friends visited. And on top of all that, I got tons of presents. It escalates the positive feeling, builds excitement.
Nice. And Charlie uses it for his son's tuition.
And on top of all that, I have to pay my son's college tuition. It clearly signifies this as the final exasperating straw, the ultimate addition to his pile of woes, making his situation feel completely overwhelming.
Those three are fantastic everyday phrases, but there must be loads more that help you talk about money or hardship naturally, right? Thinking about Charlie's situation.
Oh, for sure. English is full of idioms for this. For instance, if Charlie's trying to save money because things are tight, he could say he needs to tighten his belt.
Tighten his belt, like literally. Well, the origin might be literal, less food means looser pants.
Yeah.
But now it means to spend less money, be more frugal, cut back on non-essentials because you have less income.
So you might say, with the recession, we're really having to tighten our belts.
Exactly. It perfectly conveys that idea of forced frugality.
What about just, barely surviving financially? Getting by, but
Yeah. For that, you could say someone is trying to make ends meet, or maybe they're struggling to keep their head above water.
make ends meet. Like the income just covers the outgoings.
Precisely. Earning just enough for basic living expenses without falling deeper into debt. It implies a struggle, but managing, even if just barely, it's hard for many families to make ends meet right now.
And keep your head above water.
Similar idea. You're managing to survive a tough financial time without sinking, without going under completely into bankruptcy or overwhelming debt. Charlie's desperately trying to keep his head above water with all these bills. Both phrases paint a clear picture of that daily struggle.
Good ones. And flipping it around, what about preparing for bad times? Saving money.
For that, you often hear about building a nest egg.
Like a bird's nest.
Exactly. A nest egg is a sum of money you've saved up, usually for a specific future purpose, like retirement, or just for emergencies. A rainy day fund is another term.
So it's wise to build up a nest egg for unexpected problems.
Perfect. It talks about financial foresight, security, and speaking of getting through difficult times, another good one is weather the storm.
Like surviving bad weather?
Yeah, it means to successfully get through a really difficult period or crisis, like a recession. Small businesses are doing everything they can to weather the storm. These are all incredibly common everyday expressions that add color and nuance when you talk about money and economic struggles. Using them definitely helps you sound more fluent.
Okay, so moving beyond Charlie's individual story and the specific language, this whole situation really opens up some fascinating cultural differences, doesn't it? How different societies actually perceive and handle debt.
Oh, absolutely. It's not the same everywhere, not even close.
It's not as universal as maybe we assume. And this is where we go beyond just words to these broader cultural norms that shape our financial lives, our economies. It's quite revealing.
Definitely. When you connect it to the bigger picture, it's so clear that debt isn't just a financial tool. It's deeply cultural. And these differing views have huge implications for individuals, for entire economies, especially when things get tough, like in a recession.
How so?
Well, the way a society views and manages debt affects financial stability, personal well-being, even how resilient a country is when faced with economic shocks. Let's sort of compare and contrast.
Okay, so let's start with North America, the US, Canada, since that's the setting for our dialogue. What's the general vibe around debt there? And maybe why is it like that?
Right. So in North America, being in debt is, well, it's extremely common. But more than that, it's often seen as almost necessary to fully participate in the economy.
Necessary.
Yeah. Well, think about buying a house or a car. For major purchases like that, which require big loans, a mortgage, or a car loan, you basically need a history of having been in debt and paying it back reliably.
Ah, the credit history.
Exactly. Your credit history is this detailed record of your borrowing and repayment habits. It gets compiled into a credit score like a FICO score in the U.S.
And that score determines everything.
Pretty much. It affects whether you get approved for loans, what interest rate you'll pay, sometimes even renting an apartment or getting certain jobs. Lenders use it to judge how reliable you are.
So no credit history, no big loans.
It makes it extremely difficult, yes. So the sister itself almost encourages you to get into debt early to build that credit history.
How does that happen?
Well, think about credit cards. Banks in North America actively market credit cards to young adults, sometimes right when they turn 18. They'll offer free gifts, incentives.
Get them started early.
Right. Get them started spending and incurring debt. It fosters this comfort level with debt from a young age, almost like it's a normal part of becoming a financially independent adult. It's a society largely built on readily available credit and consumerism.
Okay, that's a very clear picture of the North American approach, but that's a stark contrast to other places, right? What about Europe? The source mentions Switzerland specifically.
Yes, and the source says it's totally opposite, which really highlights the difference. In many parts of Europe, and Switzerland is a prime example, debt is generally viewed much more cautiously, often seen as a negative thing, something to avoid if possible.
Why the caution?
There's often a stronger cultural emphasis on thrift, saving money first, avoiding obligations. Maybe it stems from historical experiences like periods of hyperinflation that made people deeply wary of financial instability, or just long-standing values prioritizing prudence and self-reliance.
And how does that translate into practical things, like getting a credit card?
Well, the Swiss example in the source is striking. To get a credit card there, with a limit of, say, 500 Swiss francs per month, you first need to deposit 700 francs into your bank account.
Wait, you need more money saved than you're allowed to borrow.
Exactly. You have to prove you already have the funds before they let you potentially incur debt on the card. It's a fundamentally different philosophy.
It's about security first.
Security and proving you can cover it. It's designed to prevent people from getting into debt they can't handle right from the start. Very different from the North American model that seems almost eager to extend credit.
Wow, totally opposite indeed. So what are the bigger implications of these contrasting views, especially when an economic downturn hits, like a recession? How do these different approaches play out when times get tough?
Yeah, that's the crucial question, isn't it? It relates to systemic vulnerability versus individual resilience. The source sort of hints that the North American approach, where people are perhaps crazy about being in debt, well, that approach is showing with the recession.
Meaning its weaknesses are exposed.
That's the implication. When a large chunk of your population is already carrying significant debt, and then suddenly jobs disappear and incomes shrink, that debt burden becomes crushing.
People can't make their payments.
Right. It can lead to widespread defaults on loans, people losing their homes through foreclosure, personal bankruptcies. And that, in turn, makes the recession even worse. It freezes up credit markets, tanks consumer confidence further.
It creates that downward spiral again. If everyone's already stretched thin with debt, a recession hits much harder.
Makes perfect sense. Conversely, in cultures maybe more like the Swiss model, where personal debt is less common and credit is granted more cautiously, individuals and the economy might be more resilient.
How so?
Well, there might be less booming consumer spending driving growth in good times, perhaps. But the lower debt burden means people are less exposed when incomes drop. Fewer defaults, fewer foreclosures, less risk shaking the entire banking system.
So maybe slower growth, but more stability.
Potentially, yes. Greater stability, even if the peaks aren't quite as high. And interestingly, the discussion in the source kind of concludes with this piece of advice that feels universal,
What's that?
basically. Everyone, be sure to handle your money carefully. Don't be in debt unless you really, really have to.
Good advice, anywhere, anytime.
Pretty much. It summarizes a prudent approach, regardless of the cultural norms around you. While the systems and attitudes differ dramatically, that core principle of careful financial management, understanding the risks, that seems crucial everywhere, especially with an unpredictable economy. Hashtag, tag, outro.
So where does this leave us? What does this all mean for you, our listener, having taken this deep dive with us into money, debt, recession, all seen through the lens of language and culture?
Well, we started with Charlie's desperate plea to Mr. Corleone, didn't we?
Yeah, that really set the scene.
And from that, we've unraveled quite a bit. We saw how specific words, recession, broke, loan, mortgage, aren't just vocabulary. They give shape and definition to these huge economic realities, these deep personal struggles.
They let us actually talk about complex things.
Exactly. And we explore those everyday phrases, I'm sorry to trouble you, on top of all that, tighten your belt, keep your head above water, how they add politeness, nuance, drama even.
Make you sound much more natural in English.
Helping you connect.
Yeah.
And then we zoomed out to see how these deeply ingrained cultural attitudes towards something as basic as debt really shape our financial worlds, our personal habits.
From the credit-heavy system in North America to the much more cautious approach in places like Switzerland.
And the huge implications those differences have, especially when times are tough. It really shows that language isn't just words. It's how we convey this whole complex tapestry of human experience, right? From personal despair to global economics.
Yeah, it's a powerful reminder. Understanding these terms, the history behind them, the cultural context, it equips you not just with vocabulary, but with a clearer, more nuanced understanding of the world.
You can talk more precisely about your own situation, understand the news better, navigate different systems maybe.
It's about being truly well-informed and confident in your English, especially around a topic like money, which is, let's face it, fundamental.
It really is. And, it leaves us with a final kind of provocative thought to chew on.
Oh, yeah. Let's
Just consider this. How does the language we use about money and the financial systems we live within, how does that ultimately shape our individual lives, our collective destiny?
Are we speaking the language of informed choice, of caution, building resilience?
Or are we, maybe without realizing it, speaking the language of perpetual debt, perhaps even encouraged debt, leaving ourselves, our societies, vulnerable when the inevitable downturns come?
That's a really profound question, something to definitely think about as you navigate your own financial journey and just observe how differently the world approaches these things.